The year is 1526. The Great Plains of northern India are simmering with discontent. For many years the Sultanate of Delhi, a vast and wealthy kingdom, has been ruled by the Lodi dynasty. But its current ruler, Sultan Ibrahim Lodi, was a man who inspired more fear than loyalty. He was stubborn, suspicious, and had a nasty habit of executing nobles he disliked. They began to whisper in shadowy corners, plotting and searching for a way to remove him from the throne. That spark came from a land far to the northwest, from the mountains of Central Asia. His name was Zahir-ud-Din Muhammad Babur. On one side of this epic conflict stood Sultan Ibrahim Lodi, ruler of a vast and populous empire. He commanded immense resources, a treasury filled with gold and jewels, and an army that was gigantic by the standards of the day. Ibrahim Lodi believed in the old ways of war, massive charges of infantry, and the terrifying power of war elephants. Facing him was Zahir-ud-Din Muhammad Babur, a man whose life had been a whirlwind of victory and defeat. Babur was a seasoned warrior, a poet, a naturalist, and a brilliant military strategist. He had combined the swift cavalry tactics of his Mongol ancestors with the new, deadly power of cannons and matchlock guns. The army of Sultan Ibrahim Lodi was a truly terrifying sight, a vast sea of humanity that stretched for miles across the plains. The core of this force was its infantry, tens of thousands of soldiers armed with traditional weapons. The pride of Lodi's army, however, was its cavalry, around 30,000 horsemen, the hammer of the Sultanate. But the most awe-inspiring component was his division of war elephants, at least 1,000 of these colossal beasts. Each elephant was like a living tank, covered in armor and carrying a small wooden fortress on its back. The elephants were trained to charge, to trample men and horses, and to create terror and chaos in the enemy's ranks. In stark contrast, Babur's army was a small, lean, and disciplined fighting machine with only around 15,000 soldiers. His core strength was his expert cavalry, skilled horse archers trained in the swift tactics of the Central Asian steppes. Crucially, Babur had a secret weapon, gunpowder. He had brought Ottoman Turkish gunmasters and assembled a formidable artillery park. Babur and his army arrived at the plain of Panipat first, on April 12, 1526. He chose his ground carefully. He positioned his army with the town protecting his right flank, and ordered trenches dug on his left, filled with sharp branches. For his center he collected 700 carts, tied together with ropes, creating a wall with deliberate gaps for his cannons. For a full week, the two armies faced each other across the dusty plain in a tense and nerve-wracking standoff. Ibrahim Lodi was confused. He had expected to find a mobile force of horsemen, not a dug-in fortress. Babur sent out small raiding parties to harass Lodi's camp, keeping the enemy on edge and growing their frustration. On the morning of April 21, 1526, Ibrahim Lodi's patience finally snapped. He gave the order to advance. His massive army began to move forward in a great wave, a glittering and intimidating spectacle that made the ground tremble. The Sultan's plan was simple, a massive frontal assault to shatter Babur's defensive line through sheer brute force. As the huge force surged forward, it quickly ran into problems. The front lines moved faster than the rear, and the formation fell into disarray. When they reached the line of carts, they were forced to slow down and funnel into the narrow gaps Babur had left. This was the moment Babur had been waiting for. His disciplined army held its nerve, waiting until the enemy was almost on top of them. Suddenly, on Babur's command, his artillery roared to life, sending heavy stone and iron balls smashing into the packed ranks. At the same time, hundreds of matchlock riflemen unleashed a devastating volley, bullets ripping through armor. The war elephants, terrified by the noise and smoke, panicked and began rampaging back through their own lines, trampling Lodi's soldiers. While his center held firm, Babur unleashed the second part of his brilliant plan, the tulugma, or flanking maneuver. His elite horse archers, divided into left and right turning parties, galloped out from the sides in a wide arc. They wheeled around to the rear and began showering the trapped soldiers with arrows. The encirclement was complete. Lodi's men were being attacked from the front by cannons and muskets, and pincushioned by arrows from the rear. The horse archers used the caracole tactic, riding in circles and maintaining constant fire without engaging in hand-to-hand combat. Babur then sent in his reserves, fresh cavalry that charged through the gaps right into the heart of the terrified enemy. The introduction of gunpowder weapons was the technological key to Babur's victory, with devastating psychological impact. The war elephants, super weapons of the Delhi Sultanate, proved tragically ineffective. The cannon roar drove them mad with terror. Instead of smashing Babur's defenses, they became agents of chaos, trampling their own soldiers and ensuring no organized counterattack. Sultan Ibrahim Lodi did not flee. He fought on fiercely, surrounded by loyal Afghan nobles in a desperate last stand. By noon, the battle was over. The vast army of the Delhi Sultanate was completely destroyed, with Ibrahim Lodi among the dead. Babur estimated 15 to 20,000 enemy dead. The Sultan's body was found and buried with honor. With Lodi's defeat, the path to Delhi was open. Babur dispatched cavalry to secure Agra's treasury while he marched on Delhi. On April 27, just 6 days after the battle, the Friday sermon was read in Delhi's great mosque in Babur's name. The legendary treasuries fell into Babur's hands, including the famous Koh-i-Noor diamond. He distributed the wealth generously to ensure loyalty. Babur persuaded his homesick soldiers that their destiny lay not in Kabul, but in the rich lands they had conquered. This was the birth of the Mughal Empire in India. The word Mughal is Persian for Mongol, referencing Babur's heritage. Though victorious, Babur's position was far from secure. Powerful Rajput princes were already gathering forces to challenge him. The battle's legacy was the establishment of an empire lasting over 300 years, marked by architectural wonders and cultural achievement. Militarily, Panipat heralded a revolution, demonstrating that disciplined armies with gunpowder could overcome traditional massed forces. The First Battle of Panipat was the birth of a new era, where superior strategy and technology overcame overwhelming numbers, defining Indian history for 3 centuries. If you enjoyed learning about this pivotal moment in history, please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video to help others discover these amazing historical stories.